I'm continuing my reviews on the Star Trek series with Star Trek Insurrection. Now, Insurrection is the 9th film in the Star Trek franchise, but this is the 3rd film of the Next Generation series, and this is an interesting one for me because this one I actually saw in the theaters when it came out back in 1998. I remember my dad actually took me to go see this, so this is actually the first Star Trek movie I ever saw in the theaters, but the thing is, though, I just recently rewatched the movie the other night, and it was the first time I rewatched it since I saw it in the theaters back when it came out in 1998, and to be honest, I didn't remember shit about the movie from when I first saw it, so rewatching the movie the other night, it was pretty much like watching the movie for the first time, so really rewatching it, I didn't get any like nostalgia out of rewatching it, so if I did have any like nostalgic factor for the movie, it may have actually boosted my opinion on the movie a little bit, but to be honest, this is definitely my least favorite Star Trek movie, and I know this is held by many people to be one of the worst Star Trek movies. Like, this is right up there with Star Trek V. Now, my problem with this movie, now the thing about this movie is I can't say I 100% hate this movie, it's just, this movie to me, it's a movie that I neither like nor hate. Like, the thing about this movie is, I can't say I hate it because there's nothing in the movie that really pisses me off, but, at the same time, there's nothing in this movie to really ride home about either. Like, to me, this movie is just kind of there. Now, the thing I don't really like about the movie is the first 2 Star Trek Next Generation movies, like, even though Generations has its share of problems, Generations at least had some pretty good camera work in it, and I will say that Star Trek First Contact is probably the best one out of the Next Generation movies, but the thing about the first 2 Next Generation movies is they actually felt like movies. This really just feels like something that was made for television. Like, a lot of people say it really feels like a really long episode of the show, and I can kind of agree with that. Like, to be honest, the movie might have actually worked as a made-for-TV movie, but that's the problem with the movie. It feels like it's something that was made for television. It kind of lacks the whole cinematic scope that I felt like First Contact had. My problem is it comes off as being very cheaply made, in my opinion. Like, most of the effects in this movie are pretty shitty, actually, which is kind of a surprise, because this is actually directed by Jonathan Frakes, who directed the previous one, Star Trek First Contact, which was actually a pretty well-made movie, but this one to me, just comes off as being very cheaply made. What was I gonna say? And also, it's not even just the effects that I don't like about this movie, it's also the story for the movie really doesn't interest me that much. Like Generations, even though that movie had some problems, at least it had actually some really cool ideas in it, and then you had First Contact, which had a great story, in my personal opinion. But this movie, the story just doesn't really interest me that much. I mean, I guess if the script was fine-tuned a little bit better, it may have been a interesting story, but to be honest, the story really doesn't do much for me. Basically, the plot of the movie is it centers around this race of people called the Baku, who are living on this planet, and they're not originally from that planet. It turns out that they came to the planet 300 years before the events of the movie, but it turns out that this planet actually is giving them the ability to live forever. Like, it's basically making them immortal, and it turns out that Starfleet wants to relocate them because Starfleet wants to use whatever it is that's causing them to live forever to help other people, and which to be honest isn't really a bad idea, but what happens is it turns out that Starfleet is working with this other alien race, and it turns out this other alien race, who end up being the villains of the movie, have a much darker agenda up their sleeves, and and what happens is when Starfleet tells Picard about their plan, Picard doesn't like it because he feels like it's immoral what they're doing, relocating all these people to another planet, and the movie gets into this whole thing about how relocation is immoral and stuff, and the movie has a lot of like political commentary in it, much like Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country had, but I feel like in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, the political undertones were much more subtle. In this one, it's kind of just shoving its political agenda in our faces, pretty much, in my opinion. And what was I gonna say? And also the villains in the movie, I felt like were kind of lackluster, but at the same time, in the previous film, the villains were the Borg, and it's kind of hard to top the Borg, so in some way I can't fault the movie that much for having lackluster villains, but I mean, to be honest though, I know this isn't really much of a review, it's just I really don't have much to say about the movie. It's just, to me the movie's just kind of there. The story doesn't really appeal to me that much, and the effects are pretty horrible, but at the same time I don't despise it, and I actually have a friend who actually does like the movie, and I know some Star Trek fans actually do like this one, which is fine. It's just this one didn't appeal to me. So yeah, that's my review on Star Trek Insurrection, and my next review will be on Star Trek Nemesis, and bye.